All right, may the words of my mouth and the meditation of mine heart be acceptable in Yahweh's sight. He is our strength and our redeemer, and it's in his name, which is his authority, that we pray, praise, proclaim, protect tonight's message. Amen. Amen. Hello, welcome everybody on this day, this day of July 4th. They call it Independence Day. Uh, but we give honor to the Most High. Today we want you to claim your independence. Before we get deep into that, though, once again, as always, it's Pastor Kofi, Pastor Servant to Christ. We are always changing lives one mind at a time by being the voice of the voiceless and speaking the unspoken. And today we're talking about being able to claim your independence. To be able to claim your independence today. Let today be the day that you claim your independence. While everybody's talking about Independence Day and people are going to have violent celebrations, call them fireworks, where they're literally mimicking um, bombs and guns that we're firing off. Today is the day that you can claim your independence, should you so choose to accept to do so today. Today is the day that you once again you can claim your independence. We thank the Most High for everything. We give all honor to him. We give all honor to him for my wife, the Honorable Alma, who lives a life that's able to be honored. You can check her out on TikTok, YouTube, or website, and Pinterest at Bloom and Flourish, not A&D. The letter N, Bloom and Flourish. The tincture of the month is dealing with diabetes, or preemptive, even to make sure taking preemptive measures to make sure that you're not dealing with diabetes. So if you would like to be able to find out more information about this, get in contact with us, or just check her out once again at Bloom and Flourish, not A&D, the letter N, Bloom and Flourish. She is a healer, herbalist, chemist, and biologist by degree. And thank you, everybody, for being on and helping out. To Lottie Di and everybody, we appreciate you. Hopefully you guys have enjoyed your time. A lot of people have had extra day or extra days off. And hopefully you have taken advantage of that, rested, and are feeling great. How you doing, Sister Dawn? Hello to Big Brother Thomas, to Ms., to Sister Shantae, to Minister Select Joseph, to Minister Tamara, to Sister Deborah, to Ms. Mac, to Marcano. I don't remember. I think it's Marcano, right? Big Brother Brother Clem out here. Um, Minister Select Sharon in the house. Sister Deja. Hello to everybody. And we're thankful and grateful for you all. And we do know for sure that we will be trying to do a meetup in Georgia um, um, in this month of July. So those that are in Georgia area, those that are close to Georgia, close enough, I'd say if you're willing to do maybe an hour to 2 hour drive travel to be able to get to us, depending on where you're at, we are excited to be able to get some information. We tried to send out information to those that we could find. I'm trying to go through lists and even older lists that we have. So we'll try to get that stuff to you. I will try. I believe it's Vincent, right? That's tied to that name. I will try to make sure that I send you that info or text it to you. As I said, if you guys don't get something from us direct, just let us know. We won't be there until August, though. Second week of August, I think. I'm pretty sure when we arrive, so somewhere around then. So, how you doing, Temple? Hello to everybody. Mark, so Marcano or Marcano? Marcano, probably. All right, but yeah. So thank you everybody for being on. Though today we want to talk about, it's okay to claim your independence. Right? Independence Day is a tough one for a lot of people, especially when you start to learn the truth. Because who is Independence Day for? Is it for everybody? No, right? How you doing, Laria? So Independence Day is a tough one for a lot of people. A lot of people are going to celebrate it, have cookouts, go to fireworks, do whatever, just because that's what you do. The reality, though, is that, and I have some fond memories, just personally, certain things have happened in my life on Independence Day, but Independence Day is not for everybody. And it's okay for you today to claim your independence. Claim your independence from a terrible, wicked, perverted, messed up system. It's okay to be independent, right? Um, Now, independent, we talk about a lot because when we're talking about relationships, and when we talk about the relationship, even of the diaspora to this society that's claiming independence on today for everybody. How you doing, Dennis? Um, yeah, exactly. Scholars A. You're right. So on this day, Independence Day is a tough day. I'm somebody who used to be in the military, fought for the country, all that stuff. And so, people just assume somebody's dressed like that, they look like that, they must have some bad stuff at heart. It took me a minute to get to this point, right? And I still have pride somewhat, but I still can say that I learned a lot in the military, things like that. Um, but we can't pretend anymore. It's like when people tell you about Columbus Day. How you doing, Alicia? How you doing, Shima? Um, it comes to a point where we have to tell the truth, and people always say facts over feelings, right? But let's give contextual facts. The context of Independence Day. When you first of all, let us talk about the cognitive dissonance, if we may, right? Let's talk about the cognitive dissonance that one must have to tell people to stop living in the past when it comes to bad things that have happened, but then celebrate the independence, so to speak, that came through enslaving other people and taking their land. Just to start off, we've got some issues going on. There's a little bit of cognitive dissonance here, right? I'm going to tell you, stop bringing up the past, but I'm going to keep bringing up July 4th, 1776. That doesn't register. See, because here's the deal. For that thing that you keep saying we shouldn't bring up the past for, but you want to bring up the past for that, every time you bring up that past, you're celebrating, right? Or a lot of people were celebrating it, are celebrating it because certain people claim their independence, which they didn't have, by the way, right? But they claim, hey, we started to fight to be free. Interesting thing though is when people of my diaspora say we should fight to be free, they will tell you that you are wrong. This was a day, in essence, if we could make it somewhat personalized and make it fit the timeline of today. Today is a day, in essence, to where really back then, right? Rather, if we were to take this date back then, people would have claimed that American, because the original American was a copper-colored person indigenous to the Americas. However, they changed what an American was, Boston Tea Party and all that, and said that these people who didn't want to be English anymore, as if like these are the same people that say, if you're born here, if you're born something, you should be it. Just be an American. Why are you worried about being an African American? Why are you worried about being African? Why are you worried about being Native? Why are you worried about being a person of color? Just be American. We're all American. But on this day, in 1776, supposedly, they want you and I to celebrate the people that said American lives matter. It was ALL. American lives matter. Thanks for being part of the community, Aries. On this day, they want you to celebrate that American lives matter while telling you how dare you say that your life matters. Now, I'm not part of Black Lives Matter organization. However, I do believe that it's okay to say that Black lives matter, and that doesn't mean that everybody else is suppressed and everybody else is terrible just because they're not Black. However, on this day, they want you to say American lives matter. Don't touch it. How you doing, Sophic Mingo? Right? So on this day, when American lives are supposed to matter, this is a day that if you say anything against it or say it's not for me, I'm not worried about celebrating it, it's not something that's part of my community, et cetera, all of a sudden you become a bad person, right? Because today, American lives matter. They're going to have parades today. Parades are very romantic. Parades is when you would have a triumph, and during the triumph, you would parade around. Parades was when you celebrated the genocide of somebody else and paraded around their people that you might be able to kill off their leadership. And there's going to be a bunch of parades today. You can probably hear in the background, because of where I am in the world right now, that you'll probably hear from time to time a firecracker going off, because today is a day that no matter what you're doing, everybody's supposed to be okay with violent sounds, because we're celebrating the violence that was used to make sure that American lives mattered. Thanks for being part of this community out of this world. Thanks for being part of the community triplets BA. How you doing? Right? American lives matter. That's basically what this is, right? Right. And that these people were willing to separate from their own family and kill off their own family members and separate from their own king that they were friends with, but then called him a tyrant. They were able to become free while making sure they could save their chattel slavery. How you doing, Dripback? And yet would turn around and tell you and I to stop saying that your life matters. Thank you, Melanated Pisces. Appreciate it. How you doing, Sister Deborah? Shalom. So today, on a day that they say that we should celebrate independence, amen. And how you doing, Minister Nice? Fireworks equals violent sounds. It's just imitating the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in there. I know that's from a different time, but that's what basically those fireworks are for, right? They gave proof to the night that their flag, their standard was still there, right? And they want us to pretend that while they would say American lives matter, which were basically white English men, their lives matter, they want you and I to pretend that we would have been considered to be human beings, even though we were 0% of human beings, and they used a 3/5 compromise to say that they should only pay 60% of taxes on us in the South and 40% of taxes up for us in the North. This is the independence that people want you to celebrate today. So when you try to claim your independence, the interesting piece is, how you doing, Jelly? Thanks for being part of the community. Here you are trying to say, I'm going to claim my independence. I'm going to claim independence for myself, independent land, independence as far as the UCC, independence as far as what the USC allows me to do, independence as far as sovereignty, independence as far as being out of the system. How you doing, Joel? Thanks for being part of the community. And then when we say we're going to do so, then, oh, how dare you do that? See, you're a reverse racist. You're the reason why America's bad. You're the reason why racism still exists. When this really is a whole thing to celebrate slave owners. Now, somebody says, oh, well, there you go. I knew it was all that matter of time. Here he is trying to bring it in. But question for you. All these people that you're talking about that claimed your independence and my independence, supposedly. Was Benjamin Franklin a slave owner? Let's start there, because people act like Benjamin Franklin was some separate cat and he was too smart for slavery. Was Benjamin Franklin a slave owner? How you doing, R. Gray? How you doing, I Am Destination? Yes, he was. Was Thomas Jefferson a slave owner? Yes, he was. John Adams, who they say didn't own slaves, but he lived in the White House. He was the first president that lived in the White House, and he lived in the White House that was in the middle. That's a manor in the middle of a plantation that's called Washington, D.C. He had overseers and they had slaves that served him. So yeah, he would be a slave owner. What about, matter of fact, if we were to do George Washington, he's not really your first president, but that's the one that people like to say he's the father of your nation. So George Washington, Virginia slave owner. Thomas Jefferson, Virginia slave owner. Madison, Virginia slave owner. Monroe, Virginia slave owner. John Quincy Adams worked for Virginia slave owners and became president and had slaves while they were in the White House. Andrew Jackson, Tennessee slave owner. We changed it up a little bit. Martin Van Buren, Virginia slave owner. I can't remember if we go to Tyler then or somebody else, but number 9 and number 10, we get back to Virginia slave owners. We go all the way through Lincoln. You're going to have about 3 more Virginia slave owners in between there. Lincoln himself, believe it or not, people forget that when he married Mary Todd was a slave owner. Therefore, he married into having slaves and being a slave owner himself. What about today is independence for us? You said in St. Louis, they have the VP fair, which VP is short for veiled prophet. Okay. Right. So what about today tells you that you were allowed to be independent? Right. So now, should we allow people to take back their independence? Right? Should people be allowed to take back their independence? Now, the Constitution allows you to do so anyways. So it's not even really, is it allowed? Is it okay for you? Because really, you should take it back. The question now is, do you believe it's okay to take back your independence? And thanks, babe. Appreciate the love, right? You are not, well, you can choose to continue to be in the system or you cannot be of it, right? But everybody trying to get you to be today, is American lives matter. But if you're an original American, then they ain't talking about you anyways. And if you're somebody that wants to be a non-citizen national, they ain't talking about you anyways. Because a real American is actually a non-citizen national. These are for U.S. citizens that are enslaved. Right? These are for you are today is a day for U.S. citizens that are enslaved to watch a parade, to watch a triumph in which they parade around values and things, and they celebrate genocide. Why do you want to be mentally part of that? You got to ask yourself a question. Who made it okay for you to be a part of that? Thanks for being part of the community, Devin. Appreciate it. Right? Like, who made it okay for us to be okay with genocide? It's okay to claim your independence. It's all right to say that I'm no longer dependent on that. Matter of fact, if you would stop dealing with benefits and privileges and being dependent, you wouldn't have to do a lot of stuff financially that you do now. A lot of the stuff that you're paying on and saying it's unfair to pay these taxes and stuff is because you deal with benefits and privileges. Stop dealing with them. What I was saying about real Americans, if you look up the original definition of an American, the original definition of American by European standards, Americans are classified as copper-colored people that are indigenous to the Americas, North America, South America, or indigenous to Turtle Island. So you don't have to, right? You don't have to partake in being an American as far as this modern American because you supersede them. However, since many of us signed over and stopped claiming who we actually are and don't believe that where our foot treads it should be this, we have come to a place to where we have decided to be dependent upon a place that messes up dependence for anybody. You said nobody talks about the children of these people. You're talking about, oh, well, the people that are connected, sure. Oh, I said the irony of the holiday Independence Day, we are paying taxes to England. That's that could be something else too to look at. Real talk, right? But I just want to put this out there. This isn't one of the long ones that we had today. It's interesting that the Most High didn't really lead me. The Holy Spirit didn't really lead me to talk about this on this Rise and to talk for a long, long time. It's just something to put in there because really every year we kind of talk about this briefly. But the reality is, it's like today's a day you can stop having to worry about being dependent on the system. Why is it that you have an Independence Day and you can live an independent life? Shwe or Shanti Shwe. Like I'm mixed with a lot of stuff. But yeah, I'm from the same area, right about the area, the tribe, tiny bit off. But I mean, basically, I mixed in eventually down the road in the timeline, in the family tree. Right. But we want to talk about what? Independence. Independence. Do you want to keep participating in the system to where everything about today, when you look at that flag that people do the Pledge of Allegiance to, that flag that you pledge allegiance to has nothing to do with you. As a matter of fact, that flag, there's been more killing, right? There's been more killing to people. I'm gonna bring up a calculator so I can try and do this, right? But there's been more people killed under that flag, more chattel slavery under that flag than there was under the Confederate flag. Right, thank you for being part of the community, not using 926. But people don't like it because that makes you feel bad. But let's just do some math, right? 1776, then we go to 1876, 1976, and then from there, so that's 200 years. And what did we do? 86, 96, 2006, 2016, right? Then add 6 more years. That's 46 years, 246 years, right? So 246 divided by 4. I could go divided by 5 because technically people were already leaving and then you had different people in the South that were still fighting. But let's just say divided by 4 because for some reason they want to act like 1861 to 1865 instead of 1860 to 1865. And then we could even talk about the Kansas Wars and other things that were still going on. But nevertheless, let's just make it simple. 246, right? Oh, I'm sorry. I did that wrong. I should divide 4. Excuse me. Let's do 4 divided by 200 and, let's do 4 over 246. What's that give us? That gives us 0.016260, blah, blah, blah. So if we were to round it down, because we should, because it's a 2, but we'll go ahead and be nice. Let's round it up. That means that only 0.16. I'm sorry. Let's do it like this: 1.7%. And we're being very nice, rounding it up. 1.7% of the years of the United States of America, if you go to 1776, 1.7% of chattel slavery that's existed, because it still exists under the 13th Amendment, only 1.7% of it existed during the time that there was a such thing as the Confederacy. We've been raised and trained and taught in school that the Confederacy, that was it. No, 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 no. No, only 1.7% of lynchings, right? Of buck breaking, of rape, of killing children. Remember, they came up with a law to make sure that it was okay for white women to kill little baby slaves because white women were killing children at such a rate. That became problematic because they were mad that their husbands were having these half white, half babies that looked like them, their husbands, rather than, and sometimes look more like their husbands than their own children. So over 246 years, only 0.17 or 0.017, right? 0.017% of the nation chattel slavery history is under the Confederate flag. They have you study the Civil War as if that's a huge thing when it's 0.017%, and I'm rounding up, 0.017% of this nation's foolishness for over 246. You said they lied. We probably were better off with them. I'm sorry, I missed it. They lied. We probably was better off with them. I'm sorry, better off with which part? I missed it. I'm sorry, Joe. I talk about a lot of different things. Sorry, forgive me. I missed it. Right. But think about that. You spent a whole bunch of time in history class focusing on something that was saying that it was a huge thing in your life that really only affected 0.17%, 0.017% of this country's story, his story. Right? 0.017%. Why were we focused on that? Then the same people will tell you, though, oh, well, we shouldn't teach people anything that doesn't have to do with America because it doesn't really mean much to us. You have a whole thing called chemistry class. Chemistry comes from chemistry. You don't teach about chemet, though, even though you teach chemistry. But 0.017% of your history has to do with the Confederates. And they want you to be celebrating a country that says do that. Right? The United States of America has more slaves in prison than any other place. The United States of America still has places to where you can go to these prisons and people are picking cotton. The United States of America still says it's okay to put somebody in the hole for days. You know why they call it the hole, by the way? Y'all think that they call it the hole because it's just a dark place and it's dark. No. In chattel slavery times, there used to be holes that they would put people in and leave them in there for days without food, water, right? And that was their punishment. You're still dealing with the same thing today. Yeah, people are talking about independence. Independence from what? People out there can't eat tonight. Independence from what? Joe Biden told you that if you don't vote for him, you ain't black. Independence from what? They told you the separation of church and state, yet they're telling you the Osiris and Isis story, right? National Mall with the George Washington's obelisk and the District of Columbia ready to land on top of it and have sex. Independence from what? You're not even independent. They said it's separation of church and state. They said you're supposed to be independent from religion, and yet here they are giving you their religion every single day. And people are going to go out today and watch violence take place. That's all that's happening with fireworks. The fireworks is legit just a reenactment of violence. And they color it red, white, and blue. So, it looks nice. And the red is the blood, right? The blue is supposed to be peace, or it's supposed to be the water, even the maritime type feel too, especially when you get that yellow thing around it. And then you got the white. The white's supposed to be purity because it's not independence from England, really. It's supposed to be the independence of people like the 6% of America who was allowed to vote. And out of them, you still had the 1% of the 1% of the 1% of the 1%. You said we have to watch what we say, but I thought it was freedom of speech. Yeah, freedom of speech. They told you got freedom of speech, right? But you try to say whatever you want. See if TikTok allows it to happen. That's why this is Kofi_43. That's why we ask you guys to check out Kofi_44 and follow, and maybe share it with other people. Hopefully they'll follow, right? Because obviously it's not freedom of speech. And we've never been on here live. We've never been on here cussing. We've never been on here showing naked people. We've never shown people dances out here that are inappropriate, right? But when you speak truth, you get taken down. How you doing, Sister Barbara? Right? We are dealing in a society, in a system that says that you should celebrate something, right? That says that these rich white social construct with these rich white men are independent of certain things. Meanwhile, when you try to gain your independence, people say that it's a bad thing, and we feel guilty about it. Had people not felt guilty about it, our people would have started getting independence a long time ago. Because here's something that they don't want to tell you, right? As we get ready to take our leave, we got to be shorter on tonight. We're just trying to make sure this reigns and rolls on and even resigns somewhat in your mind, in your mindset. You ready? Are you ready for this? The best times for you as a people were when you were separate anyways, when you were truly independent and interdependent upon each other. That's been the best times in your story for you. The worst times in his story has been when you've been kings and queens. That's why they tell you in school, don't refer to yourself as kings and queens. How you doing, Afrocentric? Thank you for the love. Appreciate it. Don't refer to yourself as a king or queen. But the best time in your story was when you were kings and queens, when you were chieftains, when you had your own religiosity, when you spoke your own language, when you were the one who was doing what they're just now catching up to. They still can't catch up to things you were doing. They still don't know how to build a pyramid. And when they don't know how to build it, they tell you that it's an alien. They have to come up with a whole other immigrant from some whole other made up destination in some place that they say that they don't even know exists. And they had to come up with another story, just like they came up with a story about Gaia and Neptune and Jupiter and all these different things they had to come up with in the firmament and all these things that they come up with to be able to get you to be able to be on board with foolishness because they can't comprehend something. Why would you want to partake in a system that whenever they can't figure out why you were able to do something they couldn't, they tell you that, oh, an alien had to do it? What kind of craziness, what kind of foolishness is that? I'm not saying, look, if some of you, I don't, right? I'm not saying that I'm totally against the possibility of it being there, but nevertheless, I don't see any reason to believe that there's aliens out there, right? But if your belief that there's an alien is out there, you need to figure out who you're following, because a lot of these people only say aliens are out there due to the fact they can't explain that people of color did stuff they can't do. That ancient alien stuff, that's usually what it is. Hey, we can't figure out how to make a pyramid. Now, there's people who are tattooed with and have writings and findings who legit have the same things that the people who that you find in the hieroglyphs are there, right? But they won't even admit, like, maybe there's a possibility these people know what's going on, right? They used to tell us that we had no we only had oral history, and since our oral history came from us and they didn't have anything written down that they said that they validated, we really had no history. Come to find out, we had written history. Now we have families that are bringing it up. They were charged with hiding it because people who came over and colonized and gentrified and tried to dismiss everything about us and burn down libraries and things like that, right? These families were charged with making sure nobody got their hands on it. I don't know, Curtis, what do you want to talk about with the shooting in North Chicago? Is that the one you want to keep bringing up? Because at the end of the day, with the shooting in North Chicago, with the shooting that happened in DC today, with the shooting that happened in Atlanta today, with the shooting that happened in Atlanta earlier in the week, with the shooting that happened in Houston today, with the shooting that happened, there's a lot of them. right? I don't know. I'm not sure. Okay, I'm sorry that I'm not keeping up with each individual shooting, right? Maybe we can do something. I mean, we've talked about shooting plenty of times in the past. Maybe we'll have something soon where we'll do a whole thing just on shootings, right? But people don't want you to worry about the things of your people. And I'll say this much: when it comes to shootings and things of Chicago, you know that once again, Independence Day. Why would you be concerned about a country that allows police officers to go out there and put um, guns out there with fouled off serial numbers, which means the police officers are taking it from their places, taking the serial numbers off, putting them out on the street, then making sure that they basically put bullets out in another place in another alley, and allowing these children to be able to shoot each other anyways. Why would you want to be part of a system that does that? Why would you not want to be part of a system to make sure that we get rid of that? You said no time to build pyramids and art when you're constantly being attacked at war. Africa is war torn. That's true. That's true. Very very much so. Ben, for real. Hey, shalom, Sister Tracy. How you doing? So we got to realize this, right? It's not for us. Why would you want to be part of a system that tells you that you're nothing? But then, speaking of pyramids, doesn't tell you that right in Illinois as well, and right in Indiana, and in Cherokee country, and in Mississippi, which used to be bigger than just what you know as a state, but the Mississippians used to live in a much broader place down there, and in Florida, and in South America, all over the place, that there's pyramids all over there. Matter of fact, the Mississippians, the actual tribe of the Mississippians, they themselves used to have more pyramids in their tribe than anywhere else on the planet. But when we think pyramids, even though there's more than just the big three, but we think just the big three pyramids, and we don't even realize when you go over to Africa. A lot of people don't know. Do a Google Earth search if you're able to, and look at where the pyramids are positioned, and look at what's around it. The city's right there. A lot of people you have to take pictures to pretend like you're just out in the desert. You're dealing with city. They don't care about that. All it is a tourist attraction. The Sphinx, they don't care about that. All it is a tourist attraction. Memphis is a major city in Kemet. Mm-hmm. Right. Like, so these things have been here. Matter of fact, they won't even tell you. Right now, I'm not somebody who has a hard time, because people always do this weird thing of saying, hey, we don't believe that slavery really happened, which is, I think, way too far to go. But I say we don't really think, or not slavery, but we don't think that the African slave trade happened, because we don't believe that, millions or tens of millions of people could be taken from somewhere in old boats. And where are the boats? Even though we have historical documentation, and there's a whole bunch of buildings that you walk in all the time and probably don't even realize that you're walking in old slave ships, that there's old slave ships all around in the water. Like, people say there's no old slave ships. Yeah, there are. There's old slave ships that they've actually kept alive in certain countries, including the United States of America, where you can walk on them and actually see what's going on. And you have to remember that most of the cargo, they didn't consider us people, but they considered you cargo. Good economics is what you were, right? According to the Willie Lynch letter and other things that you can read. And so these economics that were put on the ship, they didn't believe that most of you were going to make it anyways. So they weren't concerned. If they had to throw some of you over the water, so be it. They threw you overboard. Matter of fact, they wouldn't throw you overboard. They'd have your friends and your family throw you overboard, so that they wouldn't have to touch the dead body. Right? But these are the things that are there. So all these things that are going on, why would we want to celebrate something that tells you to be part of that? Yeah, a lot of cities covered underwater, all these different things, right? Kemet has a lot of medicine we're not talking about, chemistry, right? And even when they tell us all these things, so even with that, but also too, we don't want to talk about the fact that they're natives, right? Because I'm part native, that they're natives here. We don't want to talk about the fact either that there were natives that had to be mind warped into believing that it was okay to go ahead and enslave people that were their own, or people that were their cousins, or even people that were Africans. And then Africans and natives married into each other. So there's a lot of stuff that's in there, right? But none of this is taught, because they want you to be independent from yourself. And so, as once again, tonight, the focus is to really go long, in depth, and all this stuff, because a lot of stuff people know, and people are gonna bring up comments and stuff, and that's great that we do. But I'm telling you, the focus for tonight is just to remind you that, like, you can be independent of this. You can be independent of the system. You can be a whole sovereign. You can have your own land. It can be a Lodio. You can work on getting land with other people who are like-minded. We're working on that. If you want to join us, you can make sure that you learn your languages again. You can make sure that you homeschool your children. You can make sure that you get your paperwork done correctly. You can make sure that you are lifting yourself up. You can make sure that you're affirming yourself. Remember, we've been going over 5 affirmations for this week. You do not have to participate in a system that's told you that your hair is messed up and then tries to get their hair to look like yours. Your hips are messed up and then they try to inject stuff in their hips. Your butt is messed up and then they try to get fake stuff in their butt and almost kill themselves with this rubber. Your breasts are messed up and then they try to make sure they get these implants to look like yours. All right, your nose is messed up and then all of a sudden they want to try and do things with makeup to make it look like their nose looks like yours. Right, like it's come to like your eyes are messed up because they're not lighter, even though you have more melanin. So why would you want them to be lighter? So you can actually make sure you can see all the colors of the spectrum. Right, why would you want to be part of a system that says we want to erase all that, and then when we erase it, we'll this is what legit, this is literal, I'm not even being figurative here. They say we will literally breed enough of you into us to keep alive in us what we say was bad when you had it in full. Think about that now. What you have in full, they say that's terrible when you have it in full. But when they can take a little bit of it and put it inside, you don't believe me? Do some research on all these black babies that are found down here. How you doing, Auntie B? All these black babies that are found down here missing internal organs. You don't believe me? Look up all these black babies and they're dealing with autism. A lot of babies dealing with it, by the way, but these black boys more than anybody else because they're getting twice the legal limit to what you could give a dog. They're putting inside newborn babies when they're giving these injections, twice the legal limit of mercury. But they don't make, right? You don't believe me? Look at breeding camps that they've had, right? Look up breeding camps that they had in Australia, in England, in America, in Canada, and how they bred things in there. Look at how they won't allow us to be able to be identified as native, but they will allow $5 Indians to be the ones that can go ahead and have the right to be able to open up casinos and things like that. I'm not saying they're all $5 Indians, but let's be honest, a lot of them $5 Indians. Do you even know the history of a $5 Indian? If you don't, you might want to Google it. Even if you do, you might want to just refresh on it, right? Why would you want to celebrate independence from England and to be in America when all America is baby England? America is England on steroids. America still has to pay England, right? Yeah, in South America, they call the process called whitening, yeah, or blaqueamento, yeah, especially in Brazil, right? Look up blaqueamento in Brazil, right? And see that they literally paid. They said there's too many dark folk over here in Brazil. They paid money to have a bunch of white people come over. They said, we'll give you land, we'll give you money, we'll make sure you have businesses, all those things. They said, all you got to do is just at least have sex with one of these black people over here and make sure that y'all have white babies. And for the most part, that was white men coming over to have sex with these black women. And then they literally took pieces of what was there. So now you'll hear Shakira sing, and Shakira says, "This is Africa," or whatever she says at the end of the song. Every time I hear that song, it makes me so frustrated because I'm like, what do you know about Africa? Like, help me out. It's bad enough that you didn't learn how to use your falsetto right as a musician. To me, it irks me a little bit. Sorry, I'm not trying to joan, but it is what it is, right? It's bad enough that basically you trying to act like you're the only thing out here with hips, when the reality is that our women have been over there and their hips were fine. Why is it all of a sudden that your hips are the ones that need to be out there? Nobody else can. It's bad enough that you on the magazine covers and you know that they won't put somebody of color on the magazine cover. All those things, we know those things to be true, right? But then you're going to talk about this is that, like, what is your tie to that? Now, if you're admitting that you do have some of the mixture in there, then admit it fully. But don't admit it just to be able to make some money off of my sister, off of my wife, my mother, right? Our women. It's time to start being independent. You said you don't get why you hear our people try to discredit slavery. True, they've covered up that this is our land and stole it and covered the information. Why can't both be true? Yeah, both are true, right? So I'm just saying, if it's okay for them to lie, it's okay for them to say they're independent of their own. Like, I want you to think about the foolishness even in that, right? This is why people in Europe now, right, and the war that's going on with Ukraine, Ukrainians are coming over here and they're getting to stay, but all the black people that get flown over here, if they even get to be flown over here, they got to be shipped right back to Africa. Why? Because as much as they keep telling you you're American, white represent white, like game represent game, right? Game recognize game, white recognize white. When Ukrainians come over here, they don't be like, "Oh, you're an immigrant." They don't say, "Oh, you need to be flown to Mexico, and then we'll see if you can come over." No, they say, "Oh, come on over here, have a place to stay." You could be a Nazi, yes, you can, because they did it with the Nazis. You can be a Nazi, and all they got to say is, "Well, we're trying to beat Russia," and that's the excuse to be able to make sure that you wipe the slate clean, have Nazis live clean and everything, and have Nazis that have been raised in positions of power with more money than you and I could ever dream of. But then they say, celebrate Independence Day. Independence from what? JFK has a journal in which he said that Hitler is going to be remembered as a hero. I'm not even making that up. It's something that's been released. You were allowed to be able to read it. It's right there in his diary, in his journal, whatever he called it. Right? His father, John, was somebody who was a Nazi sympathizer. He was somebody that made it really tough. He helped America to remain an isolationist nation so that America wouldn't go to war, so that America could keep making money off of the Jews that were being burned. If you don't believe me, look when you look at all these concentration camps, when you're looking up to concentration camps and things like that, look at some of the famous pictures of the railroad tracks that lead up to them. You will see American companies on the railroad tracks. You know why? Because Americans were benefiting from what was happening to them. Those people would be burned in ovens. They were being stuck with all types of just like today, they were being stuck with needles, with all types of things. That's why they had to make the Nuremberg Code. I'm not going to talk too much about it, but you can do the research on it, because they tried to shut us. They shut down the YouTube channel. World Health Organization came shut down the YouTube channel last time we talked too much about it. We tried to do a series on it. They said, no, we're going to shut y'all down. Right? So if you want to learn more about it, you have to learn more offline, or ask me questions offline, or maybe we'll even do something where we talk about it. I've been talking about possibly doing it on Zoom or something for a while. Maybe we'll do it there. Maybe we'll do it on Facebook for those that actually want to come on Facebook or whatever. Maybe we can do a special thing just on Facebook, right? Or something. We'll figure it out. But you got to recognize the game. You got to recognize what's going on. And so while everybody else is excited about the independence of a certain group, of a certain diaspora, or a certain percentage of a certain diaspora that's been able to continue to have rule over everybody else, whether you're black or white, we might as well start saying, what can we do to become independent of this nation? And Independence Day, for us in our culture, Yom or day, it literally means a period of time. It ain't 24 hours, right? It's 24/7. If you want it to be, your period of time of freedom can be for the rest of your life. But choose today what you want to do. Do you want to continue to be attached to a system that kills people off? Or do you want to go ahead and separate? Matter of fact, I think I just heard well, I'll pray about it. I feel like I heard that we're going to continue this tomorrow in the rising before I take my day off, and we can go ahead and just really get into this or whatever. Moderators, that means that I need y'all to be ready. So please be ready in the rising. We thank you, though. We appreciate you. I got to get ready for class. We've gone over what we normally do. We got our last class for Hebrew characters tonight before we take our break for the third semester and bring up our next set of classes. So thank you, everybody. We appreciate you. We're going to be on time for that. Once again, we praise the Most High. We praise, thanks, babe, amen. We praise the Most High for my wife, the Honorable Maya, who lives a life disabled to be honored, the Honorable Amma, who lives a life disabled to be honored. You can check her out on TikTok, YouTube, her website, and Pinterest at Bloom and Flourish, not A&D, the letter N, Bloom and Flourish. She's a healer, herbalist, chemist, and biologist by degree. Thank you guys for tuning in. We look forward to talking to you guys tomorrow. Those of you who are Patreon members, remember that we'll start at 7 o'clock p.m. Eastern on Patreon live tomorrow, and then we'll get into the live at 8 o'clock p.m. tomorrow. So thank you for that. We thank you guys. We appreciate you. We honor you. We honor you. We honor you. Remember your affirmations: Romans 8:1, Romans 8:11, Romans 8:18, Romans 8:19, Romans 8:28, And as always, this has been Pastor Kofi, Pastor Servant to Christ, where we are always changing lives one mind at a time by being a voice to the voiceless and speaking the unspoken, until I have the great privilege, opportunity, and responsibility of being in front of everyone again. Please remember, as always, Yashra'al, that you are loved, you are necessary, you are majestic, you are fearfully and wonderfully made, and you, which is all of us working together, will be the reason why people who are in this system no longer have to be of it. Shalom. Peace.